Prediction video. This time it's UFC 283 Teixeira versus Hill. I didn't go too bad last weekend. I could have gone a bit better. If we have a look, I had Charles Johnson, I had Daniel Argueta, Alan Nascimento, I had Rebecca, I had Ribeiro, so I got this one wrong. I had Matus, so I got that one wrong. But I think Matus showed that he was just a little bit young, but he's actually really good and he's going to make waves in the division. I had Umar, I had Raquel, I confidently had Roman. I don't know why I chose Damon Jackson, thinking back at it. I mean, oh my god, I was watching that fight and I was wanting to break the TV screen. I would have actually won a lot of money if Damon Jackson won, but I fumbled the bag there. I should have gone with Dan Ige. And then I chose Nasruddin against Calvin, and I didn't get a chance to make a prediction for Sean, but on the day I did put $50 on Sean winning by decision, and that brought in 200, so I was quite happy with that. This card, it's a 15-fight card, all in Brazil. There's been a couple of replacements, but there's been no fights scrapped so far, so that's an absolute bonus. We're in for a big Sunday, probably a Saturday for you guys in America. But hey, let's get into it. This is the picks for UFC 283, and by the way, thanks to my one subscriber, appreciate it. If I get a few more subscribers, I'll invest in a mic and I'll try and make these videos a bit better quality. Cheers. Let's get into it.
All right, we got Daniel Marcos and Saimon Oliveira. This should be a fun fight. So Daniel Marcos, 13-0, 5-5 in his last 5 fights. However, if you have a look, this was 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 3 years ago. And then apparently uprooted his life and moved to a gym and dedicated himself to the sport of MMA for 3 years. And then he came back on the Contender Series and got a win 4 months ago. So there was a bit of a 3-year gap in between those two fights. He was actually the underdog in this Brandon Lewis fight. This Brandon Lewis guy is primarily a grappler, and that was actually a real good showing from Daniel Marcos. He showed clean striking, a good gas tank. He was still throwing at the end of the third round. He got taken down a couple times, sprung straight back to his feet. And I'd say he probably he stuffed about 7 takedowns, so that was actually really impressive. This guy doesn't have too much tape on him, but if you go by his last fight, I mean, I'm quite high on this guy. And then on the other side, we've got Saimon Oliveira, and I mean, really, Saimon Oliveira has some of the most questionable fight IQ I've ever seen in my life. I mean, this guy's 4 out of his last 5. His Contender Series was a split decision win against Jose Alday. When I'm looking at his stand up doesn't impress me at all. But he does mix. He can mix it up. I mean, he can throw some kicks. He's got average stand-up. He's not afraid to hold someone against the fence and clinch them. He definitely mixes in takedowns, and he goes for takedowns. The problem is when he takes him down, he doesn't do much with it, hey? I mean, this Contender Series fight, he took this guy down, and in 2 minutes, I think he threw 1 ground strike. It was just quite questionable. It's a bit of a lay and pray style. He doesn't do much. Also in that Contender Series fight, he badly rocked his opponent in the 3rd round, and instead of finishing him off on the feet, he instantly went for a takedown and took the guy down and didn't do anything with the takedown. So yeah, it's just, I don't know, what I've seen from this guy is just not very he doesn't have a very good fight IQ. Against Gravely, he just had nothing for him. Gravely just kept taking him down. Looked like he was getting taken down easy, and he just, I mean, he was throwing up submission attempts, but he just couldn't really do anything off his back, to be honest with you. When I look at who's going to win this fight, I mean, the Tapology says 76% Marcos, 24% Oliveira, and I can really see that. I do believe in you being only as good as your last fight, and this Brandon Lewis fight just looked real good for Marcos. His stand up and his takedown defense. I can see a world where Marcos just stuffs all of Oliveira's takedowns and just pieces him up on the feet. I'm actually quite confident that Marcos is going to win this fight. If we go to the TAB, Simon Oliveira is a $1.60 favourite, and Daniel Marcos is a $2.30. I definitely think there's some value there in Daniel Marcos, but I mean, this is when I look at this fight, it's one of those first fights of the night that could go either way, and if I make a parlay with this fight, I could see it just getting ridden off at the start of the night, and that's not fun, is it? So if I was to recommend a bet for this fight, I'd either say Daniel Marcos head to head, go for the dog, he's been looking good, or what I would definitely prefer would be that this fight goes to the distance. They've both shown that they've got decent enough decent enough cardio to last 15 minutes. And I just don't see any of them being particularly nasty with shots that can put the other to sleep. So I think this fight going to a decision would be a good bet. I don't know. We don't have props at the TAB, my sports book, yet for this fight, but I would definitely be looking at this fight going to a decision and seeing what the odds are for that. Actually really excited about the next fight. It's Luan Lacerda versus Cody Stamann. And Luan Lacerda, he's 12-1, making his UFC debut. And what I've seen from this guy is legit. He's 5 out of his last 5 fights. He's 30 years old, making his debut, 5'7", 73-inch reach. This guy, I'm actually really high on Luan Lacerda. He has crisp technical striking. He's got a good jab. He's got nasty kicks. He's not afraid to go for the takedown, and if he does get the takedown, he's smothering and he's working on top and he's throwing ground and pound. He doesn't have the best takedown defense. However, whenever he gets taken down, he makes sure he tangles the person up. He's constantly throwing submissions. He's actually really good at riding their back like a backpack, like Damian Maya spec. And I actually see him dangerous everywhere, really. He's got, crisp striking, constantly throwing submission. He's a legit BJJ black belt, like legit. You can see it when you see this guy fight, that he really knows what he's doing. The problem is he's going against Cody Stamann for his UFC debut, and Cody Stamann's 2 out of his last 5. He's 33, 5'6". He's actually got a 64-inch reach. So he's 9. He's got a 9-inch disadvantage in his striking. He's a complete powerhouse. He's a bit of T-Rex arms, but he's a complete powerhouse, and he's constantly moving forward. He puts on good pressure. He's got good striking. He's not afraid to go for a takedown, go for some ground and pound. But the more I think about this fight, the more I see Luan Lacerda pulling off the upset, and I see him cracking Cody on the feet, showing his technical striking, getting Cody frustrated. Cody's going to start shooting, and I just see Luan getting on Cody's back and choking him out. I'm quite confident that Luan's going to win this fight by submission. If we go to the Tapology, it's 64% Stamann, 36% Lacerda. I've got to disagree, to be honest with you. If you go to the odds, it's $1.26 for Stamann and $3.75 for Lacerda. So he's quite a heavy underdog, 4-1 nearly. But I can see it happening, and I'm waiting for the props to drop for this fight, because I'm definitely going to take Luan by submission. I think that's it's actually a very likely outcome of this fight, and I can see Cody dropping to 1 out of his last 5. To be honest with you, as sad as it is to say, I think Luan Lacerda is going to come out and pull off the upset in front of his hometown, and it's going to be a big prospect to look for. I really like Luan in this fight, and I think he's probably the best value on an underdog for the whole night.
All right, the next fight we got Josiane Nunes versus Zarah Fairn. So this, okay. So Josiane Nunes, she's 9-1. She's got heavy hands. She's tiny though. She's like a little gremlin. She's 5'2", but she's been knocking out all these girls. I mean, that's a decision, then a KO, and a KO, and a KO, and a KO. Her only one loss is against Taylor Santos, which is actually, which is a win that's actually gotten a lot better over time now that we know who Taylor Santos is and how a lot of people think that she might have even bet Valentina Shevchenko for the title had she not had that headbutt. But she's going against Zarah Fairn, and Zarah Fairn has not fought in the UFC for 3 years. Her last fight was against Felisa Spencer. Felisa took her down, and she had absolutely no ground game, couldn't get up, and lost to ground and pound. And then before that, Megan Anderson, another huge chick, it's probably like 6 foot, took her down. She couldn't do anything, and she got submitted. So you can see massive flaws to her ground game, but the people she's been getting taken down by are, decent-sized females. Not 5'2" like Josiane Nunes. However, you go to her last wins, and they were 5 years ago, coming up 6 years ago, and then you watch tape on it, and she's got quite terrible stand-up. So not only does she have terrible stand-up, but she's got a terrible ground game, and I just don't see this ending very well for Zarah Fairn after 3 years. Josiane Nunes, she's on a roll at the moment. She's short, she closes the distance well, and she just swings like heavy punches where whenever she clips the ladies, they get knocked out. So, you can't possibly go with Fairn from what you've seen lately. I mean, she's been dominated both of her times in the UFC, and besides that, it was 5 years ago. So now what? She's 36. I mean, sure, she could have got better at stand up in the last 5 years, and she's had a break, so she's probably gotten better at her takedown defense in the last 3 years. But I mean, I think this is the last fight you're going to see of Fairn in the UFC. I think Nunes is going to charge forward, clock her, take her out in front of her home country, Brazil, and it'll be a big moment for Josiane Nunes, who will move on to 10-0. What does the Tapology say? It says 96% Nunes, 4% Fairn. The TAB says $1.16 to $5 for Fairn. If Fairn won this, it would be a colossal upset. I mean, I don't look at Josiane and think she's a absolute world beater, but she when for the 145-pound division, she probably is, because it's such a weak division. I think the lock is definitely Nunes. Is there enough value to put it on a
parlay, probably not. I mean, $1.16. Once you wait for the props to come out, maybe Josiane inside the distance. Maybe that's a good bet, but yeah, I'd probably be staying away from betting on this fight and just watch the massacre unfold. Okay, next fight, we've got Warlley Alves versus Nicolas Dalby. Let's start off Warlley Alves. I mean, this guy started off with a great UFC run, going 9-0, beats Colby Covington, goes up against Brian Barberena, who stopped him in his tracks. Then he goes up against Kamaru Usman. A couple of losses against James Krause, Randy Brown, Jeremiah Wells. Jeremiah Wells looked quite brutal in that fight, to be honest with you. Lost. He got knocked out cold in his last fight. When was that? That was 2021. So he's had a year and a half off. It's a good amount of time to recover from that brutal knockout. This guy, he's 32. He's still young. He joined the UFC at young 20s. He's been around for a while. But when I look at this guy, I mean, he's explosive and he's going for a knockout. But besides that, nothing really stands out that he's particularly good at, to be honest with you. If we look at who he's versing Nicolas Dalby. This guy he's 20-4. He's a decent fighter. He's a bit all rounder. He's getting a bit old now. He's 35, or 38. I mean, didn't really look good against Tim Means, but Tim Means took him down and just held him against the fence the whole fight. I don't expect Warlley Alves to do that. I think Warlley Alves is going to come out guns blazing. But this guy's had some good wins against Alex Oliveira, Daniel Rodriguez, Claudio Silva. I actually like Nicolas Dalby here. I think Warlley Alves is a bit of a flip of a coin. I mean, this is one of the most unconfident picks of tonight, but I'll definitely say Nicolas Dalby gets it done. If we look at the Tapology, yeah, it's 68% to Dalby, 32% to Alves. This Tapology agrees. If you go to the TAB, though, Warlley Alves is actually the favourite, $1.78 compared to $2. I like dog money on Nicolas Dalby. I don't think I'm going to be putting him in many of my parlays, but I think he's got a decent chance of winning. Just he's getting a bit old, but I think he can do the job against Warlley Alves. I'll take Nicolas Dalby, dog money, by decision. There's some absolute bangers on this card. Next, we've got Terrance McKinney versus Ismael Bonfim, and what a fight. I mean, Terrance McKinney is growing to be one of my favourite fighters. I mean, this guy is just absolute content. If you have a look at his last few fights, I mean, he lost the Contender Series, and then he lost to Derek Minner. And then on the regional scene, he gets a 16-second KO, 17-second KO, 1 minute 12 KO, and then he joins the UFC and gets a 7-second KO. So at this point, his last 4 fights, he's finished 4 fights in less than 2 minutes. And then he comes out and he gets another 2 minute 11 round 1 finish, rear naked choke. Goes against Drew Dober, and everyone knows Drew Dober. He's an absolute beast with a granite chin, and he knocked. Oh mate, that was like one of the most entertaining rounds I've ever seen in my life. He knocks Drew down, nearly finishes him. Drew shows his veteran and his heart and his spirit, and he just somehow survives. Gets up, it's just a back and forth, just Drew's getting his ass kicked, to be honest, and then Terrance starts gassing out, and Drew comes back and finishes him on the ground. So, I mean, he was this close to finishing Drew Dober, and I couldn't actually believe watching it live that Drew came back and won that fight. And then he comes out and he versus Eric Gonzalez and chokes him out in 2 minutes in the first. So this guy is actually just a absolute killer for the first, I'd say, 3-4 minutes of the fight. Absolute killer. Problem is he's going against Ismael Bonfim in Brazil, and it's Bonfim's UFC debut. But this guy isn't bad. Everyone keeps saying the other Bonfim's the better brother, but I think Ismael Bonfim is actually really good. I mean, he's on a 10-year undefeated streak. Hasn't lost in 10 years. 9 years. And the last person he lost to is Renato Moicano, who is coming into his own and looking like an absolute beast, which was, that loss is aged very well. This guy's actually decent, very good. He's been going to decision his last few fights. So I'm a big Terrance McKinney fan. I love watching Terrance McKinney's fights. It's just violence personified, really. But for some reason, I've just got a feeling that it's gonna be absolute violence for the first round. Bonfim's gonna somehow survive. Haven't seen his jaw get cracked yet. I think Bonfim's just going to somehow survive the first round. It's going to be absolutely nuts. Terrance is going to gas out, and I see Ismael Bonfim getting a TKO in the second round. And, I mean, it sucks to say because I'm a big Terrance fan, and actually the other day I saw this news article about Terrance tripping out on LSD 7 years ago, and he ended up dying twice on the way to the hospital, and I thought, wow, this is actually like, what a comeback story for him, dying twice in the back of an ambulance after being arrested by, a dozen cops, and then taking it upon himself to teach the youth on the dangers of drugs. And then you look at him now 6 years later and he's in the UFC, and he's actually one of the most entertaining fighters in UFC history up until this point of his career. So I mean, I love McKinney. I love the story about McKinney, but I can just see Ismael surviving the first round and taking him out in the second. Sorry, McKinney. If we look at the topology, it's 81% McKinney, 19% Bonfim. And I don't know if it's me that just keeps going against the grain or what, but what do we have? We got Ismael Bonfim, 2-1 underdog, Terrance McKinney, $1.76. So, I mean, it's a pretty close fight when it comes to the odds, but I think Ismael Bonfim's going to get it done. Give me Ismael Bonfim by second round KO in a absolute classic of a fight. Alright, this next fight is absolutely wild, and I don't think it's wild as in the fight's going to be wild, but the betting lines on this fight is actually nuts. We've got Jailton Almeida versus Shamil Abdurakhimov. Now, Jason Almeida is a -1,000 favourite, which, I mean, I just don't understand. This guy's 215 pounds, right? He's basically a light heavyweight fighting at heavyweight. He's got a couple of wins in the UFC heavyweight division, but then if you look into that, you've got Anton Turkalj, who, I mean, this guy, he weighs in at 215. So this guy's the smallest heavyweight on the roster, basically, they put him against. The two smallest heavyweights in the roster went at it, and he beat him. Sure, that's fine. But I don't hold too much weight to that. And then you look at Parker Porter. I mean, who's Parker Porter? He's 13-7, and I watched this guy's fight, and he's just extremely flabby. He doesn't look like he's taking it seriously at all. And he got destroyed by Jailton Almeida because he's got absolutely no ground game. So, I mean, Jailton Almeida's 2-0 in the heavyweight division, but who's he fought? Like, absolute trash cans, really. To be honest with you. So, I mean, I do favour Jailton Almeida to win this fight, but if you look at Shamil Abdurakhimov, he's 2 wins in his last 5, but if you look at who he's been fighting, I mean, he's fought Chris Daukaus. I mean, that loss has aged like milk because of Chris Daukaus' current run, but at the time, Chris Daukaus was looking like the next contender. He was looking like a bit of a world beater. And then, I mean, Chris Daukaus is, 250 pounds? Then he's lost to Curtis Blades by ground and pound. I mean, Curtis Blades is one of the biggest heavyweights on the roster. He's 265, weighs in 265, probably comes into the fight 300 pounds. And sure, he lost a ground and pound KO to Curtis Blades. No shame in that. He gets ground and pounded by Sergey Pavlovich. I mean, this guy's basically going to be the next heavyweight champ by the look of it. I mean, he's an absolute beast, and he probably comes into the fight 300 pounds as well. So, Shamil's been fighting guys that are 300 pounds compared to Jailton Almeida, who's 215. So, I don't think he's going to get as smashed as everyone thinks that he's going to be in this fight, to be honest with you. He is 41, so he's pretty old and he's past his prime, and my pick is definitely Jailton Almeida. If we go to the Tapology, I mean, it's 96% to 4. I mean, that's pretty ridiculous. And if we look at the TAB, I mean, it's $6.70 to $1.10. So I don't think this would be worth betting on. Not head to head. I mean, there's no value in it, really. And Shamil's so big that he could, I mean, let's face it, he could lay out Jailton Almeida. It's not likely, but it's definitely possible. I think the best thing to do with a fight like this is go Jailton Almeida by points is paying $12. I mean, I could see a world where Shamil and Jailton, have a close first round, and then Shamil just survives a beating on the ground for 2 more rounds. To be honest with you, I don't like the head-to-head money, but maybe you could find a prop bet in Jailton by points plus 1,200. That would boost a multi a lot if it ever hit. Or will the fight go the distance? $7.80. Let's have a look. Second round to start, third round to start. $5 for the third round to start. I mean, maybe you could put the third round to start in a parlay. I mean, I definitely have Jailton Almeida as my pick, but these odds are wild. If anyone's betting Jailton Almeida as a -1,000, they're nuts, basically. Jailton's record's deceiving. Shamil's been beaten by deceivingly good people. My pick is Jailton Almeida, but I would probably go second, third round start as a prop if I was ever going to bet this fight.
Alright, mate, there's some bangers on this card. I'm so excited for the next fight. It's Gabriel Bonfim versus Mounir Lazzez. And they're both absolute killers, really. Gabriel Bonfim, he's making this UFC debut. He's really hotly touted at the moment. Everyone thinks that he's the better of the Bonfim brothers. He's the younger brother. He's 13-0. He's from Brazil. He's got a 72-inch reach. What can I say about this guy? I mean, he looks good. He's super aggressive. He's got real crisp striking. He's fast. He's young. He just looks like he's got a killer instinct. He's constantly going for the finish, whether it's pulling off one of his good submissions or knocking the guy out. I mean, Gabriel Bonfim looks like the real deal, really. The problem is they're putting him against Mounir Lazzez for his UFC debut, and Mounir Lazzez is equally as much of a beast. I mean, look at all of his fights. He's got he's a great stand-up fighter. He's a counter striker. He's aggressive as well. I mean, Mounir Lazzez is the real deal. Mounir's 4 out of his last 5. He's got a loss against Warlley Alves, and what Warlley Alves did to get that win was he just pressed it on him from the start of the fight, didn't let up, and had some nasty body shots which put Lazzez down. I don't know if he broke a rib or if it was to the liver or what, but they were nasty. I would have been more confident with my Lazzez pick if I didn't watch that Warlley Alves fight, but because I can see Bonfim doing the same thing because he's extremely aggressive. Just go at him from the start of the fight. If we look at the topology, it's 83% Bonfim, 17% Lazzez. I mean, I find that quite surprising. I thought it would have been 40% Lazzez, 60% Bonfim, but everyone's rating Bonfim really highly. This has fireworks written all over it, really. I can't wait for this fight. If we go to the TAB, Bonfim's a pretty decent favourite. He's $1.54. He's Lazzez $2.40. I mean, I kind of like the dog money in Lazzez here, but I feel like it's a flip of a coin. I think both guys are so good that they could both easily win this. So it's sort of one of those bets where it's like you can't confidently go one side. I mean, you could say Gabriel is fighting in front of his home country. He's 10 years younger. He'll be just as aggressive as Alves. He'll probably get the finish. But I could see a world where it's just Lazzez looks equally as good, really, and wins a decision. Maybe even a KO because of how aggressive Bonfim comes out. I'd probably look at the props if I was gonna bet on this fight. Let's have a look. Will the fight go the distance? $2.65, $1.40, second round to start, $1.40. You get basically $1.42 for the second round starting, and you get $1.54 for Gabriel winning. I think there's more of a chance of the second round to start in this fight than just putting money down for Gabriel. So if I was to make a bet, I'd probably say second round starts, $1.42. But man, what a fight. I can't wait. I'm going to be watching this fight as a fan. I can't wait. Both guys are so good, and this should just have violence written all over it. Great matchmaking. Right, next we've got Thiago Moisés versus Melquizael Costa. This Melquizael Costa dude, he looks pretty out of it. He's got I forgot the name of the skin condition, but he's body all around basically. He's facing Thiago Moisés, and Thiago has a clear advantage when it comes to competition. I mean, he's been going against what, Benil Dariush and Islam Makhachev, but I'm not too hot on Thiago Moisés, to be honest with you. I mean, he's a good all-round fighter and he's great at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but he's usually losing the fights that he wins, and he has had quite a few stumbles in the UFC. I mean, to good competition, but still, I'm actually going to go against the grain, and I'm going with Melquizael Costa in this fight. I've been watching his fights, and I mean, he doesn't have the best takedown defense, but whenever he gets taken down, he's throwing up submissions or he's trying to get to the feet. He doesn't mind clinching someone, working them against the cage, and he's got really clean stand-up, really clean kicks. I actually think Melquizael has a chance here. I think, Thiago Moisés, he's about to turn 28, and then Costa's 26. I think everything's in Thiago Moisés' favour in this fight, but for some reason I think that Costa's going to come out and surprise everyone and win a decision against Thiago Moisés, keep it on his feet. I mean, if we look at the topology, it's 91% Moisés, 9% Costa, so that's a bit ridiculous, really. If we look at the odds, it's $1.23 Moisés, $4 for Costa. I actually like Costa here. I like Costa by decision, and I'm going for another big underdog to get an upset. Let me take Costa in this fight.
All right, I'm extremely excited for the next fight. We've got Gregory Rodriguez versus Bruno Ferreira. I mean, this has violence written all over it, really. We got Bruno Ferreira making his UFC debut. They're both 30 years old. Bruno Ferreira is 9-0. All finishes coming by knockout. He's only made it to the second round twice. But this guy, Bruno Ferreira, he's a beast. All he ever does is just throw 100% power into every shot, and he's just trying to knock your block off. And he does so far for all of his fights. He's 5'10", 72-inch reach. The problem is he's going to... And I think he won't be such a heavy underdog if he had a full camp. I think if he had a full camp, this would actually be extremely close odds. Probably instead of a plus 270, maybe like a plus 160. But the problem is he's going against Gregory Rodriguez, who has proven that he is a really good all-round fighter. He can do it all. He's got good stand-up, great submission, great ground game. The problem is I mean, I would go with RoboCop the majority of the times, but I mean, let's have a look. He lost a split decision last year he lost a split decision. Got knocked out by Jordan Williams. It's not really aged very well because Jordan Williams is now 9-6 on a 3-fight losing streak. I'm surprised if he hasn't been cut already from the UFC. Gregory Rodriguez is a real good fighter, but I mean, the reason I'm going against him is because there's no way. He fought Chidi Njokiani 3 months ago, and he sustained quite possibly the worst cut in UFC history, and it's bar none. I mean, it's worse than the Alistair Overeem lip exploding. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It's actually just terrible. And he's coming back after 3 months, and he's fighting Bruno Ferreira, who in every one of his shots, it's just absolutely damage. So I'm going to show you this cut. So look away if you're squeamish. I'm giving you a warning. You're going to be looking like Daniel Cormier in a second. I mean, look at this. It's just the worst cut you've ever seen in your life. It's his whole forehead. And look at that vein. Mate, that's disgusting. I think 3 months to heal from that is definitely not enough, especially when you're getting someone like Bruno Ferreira. I mean, he was meant to fight Brad Tavares, and that would have been a better fight for Rodriguez because, I mean, Brad's good, but at the end of the day, he doesn't have that pop on his punch. But I think Bruno's just going to punch him square in the forehead, just completely split open the scar tissue that he's got from trying to heal that thing, and he's just going to start pissing out with blood. And if Bruno doesn't knock him out, I can see Bruno winning on the scorecards by damage just because of how much Gregory's going to be leaking with blood, and it's going to sway the judges. So my pick for this fight is definitely Bruno Ferreira. If we look at the topology, I mean, it's 90% Rodriguez, 10% Ferreira. I mean, you know, what am I missing here? Rodriguez, he is a beast, but you're telling me he's healed up from that cut in 3 months? I mean, I can't see it. if we go to the TAB, we've got Bruno Ferreira. He's a $3.40 underdog. That's actually good. I think it was like $3.60. So some people have been thinking what I've been thinking and putting money on Bruno Ferreira. He's definitely a live dog in this. Gregory Rodriguez is super good, but yeah, I think Bruno. I think Bruno's gonna knock him out this fight, and maybe just reopen that cut and cause the fight to get closed, cause the fight to get called off because of it. For prop, I'd say if you don't want to go Bruno Ferreira, I'd say it's 2-1 for the second round to start, and I think since Gregory's definitely by far the best person Bruno's fought before, taking the second round start is a good prop bet, but I got Bruno Ferreira by KO. I mean, sorry to Rodriguez, but 3 months is not long enough. Yeah, give me the Hulk for an impressive UFC debut. Next, we've got the Swan Song for Shogun Rua. It's Shogun versus Ihor Pateria. Shogun's actually surprised me over the last few years. I thought he was about to retire when he lost to Anthony Smith. Then he gets a fight with Tyson Pedro, and to be honest, Tyson Pedro was meant to win that fight, but no, Shogun wins by KO in the third round. And then there's a split decision draw. Paul Craig wins against Big Nog. Then he's lost his last 2 fights. I mean, tap to strikes to Paul Craig and a split decision and a real close fight to OSP. So he's actually been looking really good lately. I mean, considering he's been fighting for like 20 years and he's 41. But they're putting him against Ihor Pateria in his last fight of his career at home in Brazil. And from what I've seen from this Ihor guy, I'm really not impressed. He's got terrible fight IQ. He's got horrible cardio issues. If it gets out of the first round, he's actually done for. He's prone to getting held against the fence and taken down. And when people do either of them, he completely gasses out. So he's basically first round fighter where if the other person just stands there and fights with them stand up, he's got a chance. But if they do anything like mixing in takedowns or holding them against the fence, he completely gasses out and he's screwed. So, I mean, I don't trust this guy. He's 26, but I think he's been put in this fight tailor-made. Usually they try and kill off the legends of a young, hungry prospect, but I feel like this is tailor-made for Shogun to actually get the win at home, retire on top, get a nice post-fight interview. I mean, Tapology says 83% Pateria and then 17% Rua. I mean, that's pretty bad. And the TAB odds are Shogun's getting close to a 3-1 underdog and Ihor's $1.40. Yeah, my call is actually either, if you're going to bet on this, I'd say the second round starts. I'd trust Shogun being able to clinch with this guy, take him down, and get through the first round. And I'd either bet on second round starting or Shogun by KO. If it gets out of the first round, Ihor's going to gas out. Shogun's going to pull some veteran moves on him, take him down, win by ground and pound. Big win at home for the legend Shogun Rua. Cracks me up just thinking about it. Paul Craig versus Johnny Walker. It's Paul Craig. He's definitely overrated. He's got terrible stand up. His whole game is jiu-jitsu, but he's got pretty terrible wrestling, and his stand-up consists of just throwing out jabs and throwing kicks. It's all he ever does. But he's got phenomenal jiu-jitsu. So if it goes to the ground and Johnny Walker decides to start tangling up with him and playing that game with him, which, I mean, Johnny Walker's got questionable fight IQ, so I could probably see it happening. But
the only way Paul Craig can actually win this fight is if Johnny Walker does something stupid, because I can't possibly see Paul Craig knocking out Johnny Walker. I mean, Johnny Walker's got no chin, but I don't think Paul Craig's the... Well, I mean, Johnny Walker got finished by Jamal Hill, so, I mean, Jamal's a real hard puncher in what could be one of the most hilarious knockouts in history, with him slingshotting back after getting hit on the top of the noggin. And then he got knocked out. Didn't get knocked out cold, but he got TKO'd by Corey Anderson, where he took a bit of damage in the first. But besides that, I mean, he's lost a decision and he's looked good in a few different fights. I think Johnny Walker's still got the potential to be a bit of a star in this division. I think Paul Craig is a bit overrated. He's 35. I think this is tailor-made for Johnny Walker to have a stand-up fight with someone like Paul Craig, who doesn't actually have good stand-up. Johnny Walker's going to get I'd hope to see him get a TKO at home in front of his Brazilian fans. I've got Johnny Walker in this fight as my pick. Topology says 54% to 46%, so it's pretty close when you ask the fans. If you go to the TAB, it's got Paul Craig $2.50 underdog and Johnny Walker $1.50. I really can't trust Paul Craig. I can't see Paul Craig winning this fight unless Johnny Walker does something extremely stupid. Give me Johnny Walker and Johnny Walker inside the distance.
Alright, next fight we've got Jessica Andrade versus Lauren Murphy. I think this is actually going to be quite an entertaining fight. Lauren Murphy, she's not good at anything really. She's just well-rounded. But she's just really tough. She's just really tough, and she's got a big heart, and that's how she's... And she's actually had good matchmaking as well. I mean, Roxanne Modafferi, that's... I find no weight in him. Roxanne Modafferi win, I'm not going to lie. Joanne Calderwood, she used to be looking alright, but then she really fell off the wagon. Won a split decision, didn't look too good. She got her ass kicked by Valentina, which, I mean, you'd expect. And then she comes out against Miesha Tate when Miesha Tate was going to 125 for her first time. And she looked decent, but Miesha Tate did look really off that night. So, and then she's going against Jessica Andrade, and Jessica Andrade is a staple. She's been fighting in the UFC since she was like 21 years old. She's only lost in the last 6 years to Valentina, Rose, Warlley, Joanna. So the best of the best, and just beating everyone else quite convincingly. She used to be the champ. I mean, she's only 31, which is unbelievable because she seems like such a veteran, but she could still have a few more years getting better and better. Lauren Murphy's on her way out. She's 39. I think everything's in Jessica Andrade's favour in this fight. If we look at Tapology, 95 Andrade, 5% Murphy. I think that's reasonable, really. Go to the TAB, there's Jessica Andrade, $1.19 to Lauren Murphy, $4.50. I could honestly see Jessica Andrade getting the KO or winning by points because Lauren Murphy is really durable and she's got a big heart and she won't just fall over without really getting rocked. So I'd probably just... I personally wouldn't bet this fight and maybe just chuck Jessica Andrade head-to-head in a parlay. That's how confident, even at $1.19. I mean, yeah, I think it's for sure for sure Jessica Andrade wins this fight. But it should be a good fight. At the end, we've got Gilbert Burns versus Neil Magny. I like Neil Magny. Neil Magny... he's like the ultimate gatekeeper. He always hangs around the top 10 of the division. But I can't ever see him really pushing into the top 5. I mean, for this fight, I've definitely got Gilbert Burns. He just looked so good in his last fight against Khamzat Chimaev. If we go back a bit further, I mean, he fought Damian Maia, and that was Damian Maia at the end of his career. And then there's Tyron Woodley, which, I mean, Tyron Woodley was fumbling the bag back then. Then he lost to Kamaru Usman in a real competitive fight where he knocked Kamaru Usman down in the first, but then got knocked out in the second, but he still looked pretty good. Stephen Thompson, that was a tailor-made matchup for him where he just took him down and just grinded on him for 15 minutes. And then Khamzat Chimaev, he's the person that made Khamzat Chimaev look like he was human, to be honest with you. I really like Gilbert Burns here. I think it's just going to be another Stephen Wonderboy performance. I think he's just going to take Neil Magny down and just try and get a club and sub KO. He's said that he wants to get a KO in front of his home country, so I don't really see it happening on the feet because Neil's a bit slick. I think Neil would piece him up for the first round, and then Gilbert's going to take him down in round 2 and 3 and get a club and sub. I'd say probably round 3 KO Gilbert Burns. Alright, the co-main event, Davison Figueiredo versus Brandon Moreno, the 4th fight between the two. This is hard to call because each of the fights have just have had such different outcomes. Draw, then a submission win for the Assassin Baby, and then a competitive decision for Davison Figueiredo. I mean, I feel like all the advantages are on, well, not all, but a lot of the advantages are on Brandon Moreno this fight. He's a lot younger, he's 29. Davison Figueiredo is 35. He's getting older. He's getting, the weight cut is getting harder and harder for him. I've been bouncing back on who I think's going to win this fight. Let's see what Tapology says. They say 59% Moreno, 41% Figueiredo. I mean, I could see it happening, but I could also see it being another really close decision. But since the fight's in Brazil, and the crowd's probably gonna be going nuts for every one of Figueiredo's shots on Moreno, I think it'll probably sway the judges. I've got Davison Figueiredo by decision in a bit of a controversial split decision in Brazil against Brandon Moreno. Give me Figgy by decision. Alright, if we look at the Davison Figueiredo and the Brandon Moreno odds, I mean, this was a pick 'em for the last few weeks, but now Brandon Moreno's pulling ahead. I mean, I can see why, because he's the younger fighter, but I feel like if anything goes to the scorecards, it's going to be Figueiredo. So I think there'll be some good money on the 2-1, the 2-1 underdog Davison Figueiredo, but it's still a pretty close pick 'em. Next, we've got main event of the evening, Glover Teixeira, Jamal Hill. Now, I'm a big Jamal Hill fan. I mean, he's been looking super good, and he's a personality, and he's a beast. I want to pick Jamal Hill, I really do, just because I'm such a big fan of his, but at the end of the day, the red flag for this fight, I find, is Jamal Hill's last fight with Thiago Santos. He got taken down like 5 or 6 times by him, and sure, he did get up and KO him after it all, but when I compare Thiago Santos and Glover Teixeira's takedowns, I think Glover's definitely got the edge, and I can just see Glover in his hometown taking Jamal Hill down over and over, wearing him out, and just at some point finding the neck and choking Jamal Hill out. I don't like that Jamal Hill's been training with Anthony Smith when Anthony Smith got his teeth smashed in by Glover Teixeira, but I guess it's still good practice for him. I mean, there's a 201 reach with Jamal Hill. I mean, he's got some pretty long arms. I could see him sniping Glover, but I just think Glover's going to close the distance, take him down, wear on him, and choke him out. I'd say the 3rd round. If we look at Tapology, 63% Teixeira, 37% Hill. It's crazy, though, that we're thinking of someone that's 43. Anyone else that's 43, you think that they're washed up, like Shogun at 41. But Glover's just looking better and better. It's actually weird. He's a timeless wonder. If you go to the TAB, he's a 2-1 underdog. I don't understand these odds, though, because $1.76 for Jamal Hill when he's only really got his only chances to knock him out, and we haven't really seen him past the third round. It's a bit. I don't really like the odds, especially when it's only like 2-1 for Jamal Hill to get a KO. But yeah, give me Glover Teixeira by submission in, let's say, the fourth round. Drag it into deep waters, tire him out a bit, chokes him out in the third, on the fourth. So if we're going to make a nice little parlay with some good value, I think we'd first take Daniel Marcos because he's been looking really good. I can see him beating Saimon Oliveira. I can also really see Ismael Bonfim surviving Terrance McKinney's first round and then taking him out in the second. I definitely think that's going to happen. Who else do we got there? We've got... there's so much value on Luan, Lacerda. If that hit, you'd be in the absolute money. But I'm going to take Bruno Ferreira to open the gash of Gregory Rodriguez and get the fight to finish or to win a decision on damage. And then, you know what? To bump this up, I'm actually going to take... will the fight go the distance? Yes. $5 for Paul Craig and Johnny Walker. So that takes it all the way up to $77 odds. So if you put in for $100, you get $7,500 return. And it's a nice full little parlay. Will the fight go the distance? Bruno Ferreira, Ismael Bonfim, and Daniel Marcos. I like this. I think this is a nice little parlay here. Bruno Ferreira, he's a debuting guy, and it's a bit of a risk, but I can see it happening. I can see Paul Craig and Johnny Walker doing a bunch of fuck all for 15 minutes and making a decision. Yeah, give me this nice little four-way parlay. 77-1 odds. Yeah, the boys. Well, I hope it's a good card, everyone. Cheers for watching my second video ever. I need to figure out how I'm going to speed this up a bit because I know these are dragging out quite a lot. So, yeah, I'll revise that. And hey, if I keep getting, I appreciate my first subscriber. You're a beast. And if I get a few more subscribers, I might go out and buy a proper microphone so I sound a bit clearer. And hey, we might even jump on webcam one day. Alright, cheers boys. Good luck on your bets.